Yeah. Hey. Don't go shooting all the dogs, cause one of them got fleas. Don't just listen to these songs and think that you got grease. They just lyrics, I be venting to this mic, it's therapy. You could leave, but them other guys is whack, they not me.
So it's been a minute since I've uploaded a YouTube video, but I'm back now, and I figured we could use this video as a little catch-up, get reacquainted, because so many things have happened over the last few years. Things like starting 2 brand new communities, investing about $1 million and building a software company called MemberUp, getting super inflamed in the process and biohacking my way back to health and having to lose about 30 pounds, becoming pretty much a completely different person throughout the entire journey and maturing the most that I ever have. And also really rethinking how I want to show up online, the content that I want to share, and how I want to use this channel moving forward. So let's dive in. So if you're here, you might remember me from my old YouTube videos back in the day, which, although they're kind of cringy to look at nowadays, I think they demonstrate in a very material way how obsessed I was with figuring out how to achieve a life of freedom very early on. And that hasn't changed. Although I've changed a lot, that hasn't changed. And ever since that time, I have been obsessed with learning as much as humanly possible about money and time and the relationship between the two, because I think once we master money, then we're able to buy back our time. And I think that's what most people actually want, is they want to be able to make decisions without worrying about money, about how they actually spend their time. Whether that looks like deciding to build a software company, whether that looks like chilling on a beach, like everyone has their own vision for their life. First, we have to figure out how to make money without selling our time. School only teaches us how to sell our time for money. And then secondly, once we figured out how to sell something other than our time and actually make money, then we have to figure out, well, now we have our income, but what are we actually doing with that? How do we get ahead? Where are we putting that money? Because if we spend it as quickly as we make it, then we're no further ahead either. So really, in a nutshell, everything I've been focused on since those initial videos I put out on YouTube is business and investing. The most commonly asked questions that I got were, how did you buy the Lambo? How are you actually achieving this level of freedom at that age? And so that led me down the path of actually teaching what I had learned at that point about personal finance, about investing, and forming a personal finance education company that we ran and grew to multiple 7 figures over the course of about 8 years. Now, that was something that got quite large. We had events all over the world. We had thousands and thousands of students that were achieving incredible things in that community. But at about 28 years old, I had moved to LA. I was in a different chapter of my life, and me and my business partner at the time had decided that it was time for a fresh start, something new. We wanted to go and solve new challenges. So at that point, I kind of took a step back and really reevaluated what it was that I wanted to focus on next. And through a series of events, I had met my partner, now Hunter, a bunch of different friends from a business mastermind that I was a part of, and just new people from moving out to LA. And through some conversations, I actually ended up partnering with a company called Boss Babe to help them grow their company using everything I'd learned in mine. We had complementary skill sets. And that was a really cool experience, because coming into someone else's environment that they've created, where they've hired the team previously, where they've kind of set the initial culture, was interesting, because it's very different to building something with your own decision-making models, with your own way of thinking in mind from the very beginning. And I think it helped me grow and mature a lot as a business person, and it's an experience that I'm really, really grateful for. But ultimately, whilst I was there, I ran into the exact same problem that I was having in my previous business as well, with regards to the software platforms that are out there. And it just got louder and louder. I couldn't ignore this problem anymore. And through a series of events, which I'll share with you in a second, I actually ended up parting ways with them to go and actually solve that problem with a software of my own. But all the while, I was still creating my own content on Instagram, at least, not so much on YouTube, like a little sprinkle of videos here and there. But people were still curious to know more about business and finance, because those were the topics that had really helped me in my life and that I was continuing to share about. And so eventually the call to kind of bring back some kind of community or education of my own around those topics became pretty loud, and I couldn't ignore it anymore, because I'm really, really fulfilled by teaching that stuff, because it changed my life. And so it actually led me to creating 2 brand new communities to actually teach both the things that I learned about business that allow you to create income without selling your time, and the things that I know about what to actually do with your money once you started making it, where to put it, how to invest it, and do it really simply, so it's not, some full-blown day trading operation or something like that, but just really simple personal finance and investing principles that anyone can use to actually get ahead. So those are some of the cliff notes of what I've been working on over these last couple of years, but I still haven't told you the biggest thing just yet. So the biggest thing that I've been working on for the last few years is a software company that I started called MemberUp. And that was really born out of 3 different things that I was noticing and couldn't ignore any longer. So the first thing I'll say is that the best business to start is one where you have experienced the problem yourself. So if you're trying to find a business idea, there's a tip for you. Think about the problems that you're experiencing in your everyday life and think about which one of those you could solve. And for me, that was the fact that, I was in online education. I had also worked with other companies in online education, and we kept facing this same problem where there was no one platform that had content, community, events, chat, payments, all in one place. We had to duct tape together, or even in certain cases, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to custom build our own platforms using WordPress. And it just seemed like such a nightmare, and it kind of blew my mind at the time that no one had really solved that problem just yet. Now, eventually, over the years, a couple solutions did start to emerge, but they still didn't really solve the problem that I faced, that I didn't just want all of those things in one simple place. I wanted it to be a beautiful branded experience as well, and I didn't want to have to custom code something to make it look the way that I wanted it to look. Now, the second thing that I started to notice was that education was changing. There has been a huge shift, and if you look at the numbers, it's significant, of people actually declining in going into traditional education and increasing going into alternate forms of education, so online education. Because the reality is that traditional education for many people wasn't the best offer anymore. In many cases, you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to apply to get in, to spend 3 to 4 years of your life in these establishments to learn skills that are going to put you hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt just to be qualified enough to actually take on a job to eventually work for many, many years to pay down that debt and live a good life. And nowadays, there are just so many alternatives to that route, which I think make people really stop and question just blindly accepting that offer like many people used to, myself included. I studied finance, and there was no real other route at the time that I was considering until eventually I found, self-study and online education and learning from people with the results versus learning from educators and people that are teaching the theory. So the offer of college and higher education is becoming far less competitive in today's market. And the third thing that I couldn't ignore is the fact that obviously AI is rapidly progressing. And the fact that purely by the law of supply and demand, the more scarce connection becomes and the more robots take over our lives. If you think about how big of a part of our lives it already is, I use ChatGPT all the time. I just bought a new iPhone, which has AI built into it, and it's only going to increase. And so I think that as AI becomes more and more a part of our lives, then real human connection is going to become more and more scarce, and therefore, as a byproduct, more and more in demand. Now, the convergence of all 3 of these factors, plus the fact that I knew that if I wanted to reach new levels, I would need to actually build in a different business model. So up until this point, I had invested money, but I had also just been earning income through online education. However, I started to learn about different types of businesses. And what I learned is that there are businesses, different types of businesses, that you can actually sell for a higher multiple. Meaning that, let's say you build a company that has $1 million in annual recurring revenue. Depending on the type of company that is, you can actually sell it for a multiple of that revenue. So in software, it can be as much as 10, 20. I've seen crazy multiples in software. It really depends on a lot of different factors. But all that to say, I knew I had to build in a different model if I wanted to actually reach new levels. I knew I had to expand beyond just online education. So really, it's the convergence of all 4 of these things is what led me down the path of building MemberUp. With my co-founders, we invested about $1 million of our own money to launch the product. We are completely bootstrapped. We have been growing about 22% month over month in our first 12 months. The feedback has been phenomenal. But most of all, I'm building something that I'm incredibly passionate about, because Online education is what actually changed my life for a number of reasons. Firstly, I learned the skills that have actually gotten me to the place that I am now through other people that have paved the way for me, not through traditional education, which I did actually start a finance degree, and I didn't learn any of this throughout my time there. So big advocate for online education, but also as a creator who just started showing up online and sharing my message and then had people wanting to learn from me, it also was another income stream for me for many, many, many years and still is. And so being able to create a platform that allows other creators to monetize their skills, their passion, their knowledge, earn a full-time living doing that, all while bringing people together and facilitating real connection, something that I'm so, so grateful that I get to show up and work on every single day. So that has been the largest thing that I have been working on, obviously, and taking on a brand new challenge, entering a brand new industry. There's a lot of learnings, a lot of lessons, but we have such a big vision for what we're creating, and I know that that's going to take time, and it's also going to require me to keep evolving and becoming a different version of myself, and I think that's what excites me the most. It's good to see you guys. I know it's been a while since we've actually like caught up and had a chat. Everyone's had their head down just building. I think we're communicating really well in Slack, but also just wanted to do like a quick little touch base, not take too much time, and make sure that we're all on the same page. If there is a way that we can reduce scope on anything to get it out sooner and still deliver a product that is fantastic, that's kind of the goal.
I think it would probably just be better handled through a notification.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah, it can be a release per week with something new, but
that's
the hard part. This is the hard part.
This is the hard part. I'm going to start documenting the process of building a lot more. I'm actually filming this meeting right now because I think when you build in public, you know, people, they appreciate that. You know, they see the work that goes in behind the scenes and they're part of the story with you as well. I think just being transparent with people is something that I want to become a lot more of. So one lesson that this has definitely taught me, and there are many, is the power of consistency and focus over a long period of time, and delaying instant gratification is actually how you get to bigger and bigger goals. Think about it like a skyscraper in New York City. The taller building you want to build, the deeper the foundation you actually have to dig. So there was years of development before we even launched, and that was pretty painful to go through because you're building, you're investing, and you don't have really any feedback just yet, except for like some beta testers and things like that. And it's a grind in the beginning, but we had to stay focused on that if we wanted to get to the place that we're at now. We're just about to release V2 of the platform. We're so excited to release that, to keep listening, keep learning, keep building, and build this into the #1 community platform out there. Name a prettier place to walk. I'll wait. So naturally, when you're taking on any big endeavor, there's always a trade-off. And for me at the time, that trade-off was my health. I found myself in a position where I had always eaten healthy. I was doing all the right things technically, eating organic whole foods, working out, sometimes twice a day, eating in a deficit. And no matter what I did, I just continued to get more and more inflamed. I was getting puffier and puffier. I didn't look or feel like myself anymore. And I think it was really just a symptom of the fact that I was taking on a lot. I felt like at the time I knew education businesses like the back of my hand, but software was a whole different beast, and with it comes a lot of responsibility. And it started to really affect me physically. So I knew that whatever was going on, I needed to find some help. And so I actually started working with a health coach named Vince. He's fantastic. And he helped me figure out that what was going on was actually called OID, or overactive immune disorder. He has a bunch of YouTube videos about it on his channel. I'll link them in the description or something if you're curious, because if you're a woman, apparently, especially in a leadership role, quite a common thing. And so over the last 9 months or so, he helped me get my cells functioning properly again. Everything's back in balance, my hormones, my blood work, all of that stuff. And I've lost a lot of that inflammation, which feels really good. I'm starting to feel like myself again. And it really just kind of proves how important it is to listen to your body when it whispers, because otherwise you're gonna have to hear it scream. On the positive side, when you take on a lot of responsibility, you grow immensely as a person. So that's definitely been something that I'm so grateful for over these last few years. I think that challenge creates change, and with the challenge that I've taken on and the higher amounts of responsibility, I think it's also forced me to grow and become a much better leader, a much more grounded and resilient person. And I actually think that challenge and responsibility aren't necessarily things that we should move away from, but we should move toward, because ultimately that's how we grow. So whatever the challenge or the responsibility or the thing that's scaring the heck out of you to go and take on, I would say do it, because the person that you'll be on the other side of that is one that you're gonna be really, really proud of. So because I've changed, so is the way that I wanna show up online. And I think as an educator, there is a lot of pressure, whether we put it on ourselves or it's kind of external, to kind of show up as the expert all the time. And ultimately, that makes me want to kind of spend years like perfecting a video, perfecting a process, perfecting a system or a script before I even share it. And that's not really conducive to what I actually want and my goal with YouTube, which is to bring you guys behind the scenes, to show up and share consistently and not have things be completely perfect. I want to bring you behind the scenes and show you the real reality, the good, the bad, and otherwise. And so I really have to get myself out of that mindset if I'm going to be consistent. And as much as I love having the perfect words to say and I'm practiced at delivering scripts and kind of presenting, I really want this just to be more of a conversation. So I'm gonna have to learn to get back in that mindset. This is day one of doing that. And so far, so good. But I'm gonna need to flex that muscle more and more and get more and more comfortable just filming everything. I'm gonna be experimenting with different content formats so I can find what you guys like best. So if you like this format or if you don't, let me know in the comments. It's gonna help me iterate. I really wanted to set a realistic goal for me in terms of cadence and how often I'm actually uploading. This is something that I need to prioritize if I'm going to do it. So I'm gonna start with once every 2 weeks. That is the goal. And if I'm able to nail that, feel really good about doing that, then I will bump that up from there. And hopefully I'll be able to share more of the real stuff, the personal stuff, the behind the scenes, the wins, the challenges, and not have it all be kind of expert style tutorials. Not to say I won't share any of those, but like I said, it's my goal to kind of just bring you on the journey and not have this pressure to have it be, you know, the perfect process for how to do XYZ thing every single time I show up, because I don't think that that's sustainable or the most enjoyable format that at least I enjoy consuming from my favorite creators. So that's what's been going on these last few years and what you can expect moving forward. So if that sounds good to you, I would love for you to join me on the journey. We can make it official. Just hit the subscribe button below. If you liked this video, like I said, it really helps me to understand what you like, what you don't like. So drop me some feedback, hit the like button, and I'll see you very soon.